JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. June 7th, 2024. Just going to talk really quick. Have about 10 minutes to 9 o'clock, so not going to go past 9 o'clock. Rant really quick about the markets, some of the names I'm watching, some of the names I may look to add today, and go from there. But take a look at the SPY. S&P up 4 sessions in a row coming into yesterday, and then a chop. I think the market traded in less than a 0.5% range. And then the S&P, the SPY pretty much closed flat, but technically speaking, in the red, right at the upper Bollinger Band. The upper Bollinger Band was 535.77. We went all the way up to 535.42. I was hoping for some chop before the next move. You know, I talked about the last 2 days, especially with markets at all-time highs. New highs typically beget new highs, so it's a lot easier to get to those, you know, the 540, 545 on the SPY, but we'll have to see. This morning, the jobs report came out, so it was better than expected in regards to how many jobs were created, added, but then the unemployment rate went up from 4%, from 3.9%, but then also wage inflation, so wages increased. So you take the better than expected estimates in regards to job creation, then you take the wage inflation, and then you put that against the unemployment rate. Yeah, so it's a stronger than expected report. And then people always look, and this was the biggest one of the data points, especially the bears look at, is the labor participation, right? So people if they drop out of the workforce, obviously the unemployment rate is going to go up. So they think that's a skewed data point, but that did go up. So who knows if that's the main cause of the unemployment rate going from 3.9 to 4%. But either way, that just adds more ammo to I wouldn't say to the bears, but I guess you could say to the bears for folks who think there's going to be no rate cut this year. And maybe it gives the Fed some pause. But we'll have to see. I think it shakes it off. 531 or so on the SPY. That's kind of I wouldn't call it the line in the sand, but that's a spot. If that breaks, maybe I'll look for some spec puts today, spec lottos, just as a short-term trade. I'm not, I always say not putting my bear suit on. But that's that. A name I'm looking at, and URI was a name I traded or tried to trade after its earnings. I think it's a great story, and especially, I've talked about this tailwind on the $2 trillion infrastructure bill that was passed a couple years ago. You're finally seeing it bear fruit in some of these names, and STRL, which is one of my top 5 stocks for 2024, that one has been reaping the benefits. And here's URI, right? So a company that provides tools and assets to create this infrastructure, it's booming and it's doing well. And I'm surprised all the way up. It's near 720 in the middle of May, and has fallen back here around what it closed 626, 630, excuse me, yesterday. JP Morgan came out, initiated URI with a overweight rating, $780 price target. I'm not going to sit there and think it goes to 780 in the coming weeks, but I do think it has a chance to maybe it moves to 680, 685, 700. So monthly strikes, liquidity is a little tough. May look for some calls to play for a move higher on that. Sorry about that, folks. So that's URI. GPCR closed the last of my June strikes yesterday. Some of the premium that was baked into the calls was on their data. Data came out mostly above expectations besides the adverse effects. I didn't want to be in a situation where it pulls back on a downgrade or something like that. So locked the last of my June strikes in, and I was looking to get July strikes yesterday. I'll probably look over today or even into next week for some July strikes to play for a move to 70 plus. This is probably, if you look at like the top names in the GLP-1 space that have probably an M&A target on it. Of course, VKTX is my number 1, but GPCR is probably my number 2. So that's GPCR. TERN locks on my June and July strikes in to cover costs for over 100% yesterday. The stock finally over that $7 handle. It's I keep saying, I call it like oil and vinegar. Seems anytime it gets to that $7 handle, it sells off, and not just sells off a couple cents. It sells off in a major way. Last Friday, $7 hits 7, and then it closes under $6 in the same session. Finally, looks like some support, strong volume. If you look at the last 2 sessions for TERN, the strongest volume sessions since March. So I think that bodes well for more upside. It's probably means we've churned through the sellers, and I think once it breaks $8, it's off to the races. So really love TERN. Again, I would like to say it's one of my top GLP-1 M&A names, but I think I keep calling like a pocket acquisition because its market cap is under $1 billion. What 500 billion now? I have to go 500 million or so now. I got to go look. Its cash kind of offsets that, so you're really only buying a company that's $180 million company if you're one of these mega cap bio names. So love TERN. HPQ I talked about yesterday has a potential bull flag setting up. So when I was having trouble doing the math yesterday, but typically you take the bottom to the top on the flag and then you divide it in half, and that's your move from where it is right now. So close at 36.18. You, you know, you look, it was $28 all the way up to well, we'll say 39, so 550 is the move. So you say 41, $42 would be the potential target on a bull flag breakout. So the story on HPQ, and HPE got an upgrade this morning. I think there's maybe a 5% the valuation of HPQ, 5% of the AI tailwinds is baked in right now. So I think there's a lot of room for upside on that one. And then DELL. So DELL came down and tested my lower resistance and support resistance line for the fourth time, actually the fifth time over the last 5 sessions. At some point, this breaks out, and I say it till I'm blue in the face. I just don't see how DELL operates a business in the AI space at zero profits, right? You don't. You're a publicly traded company. You don't do that. So anyway, folks, let's have a great day. GameStop saga. Stock was in the 60s. They released earnings. They were supposed to release earnings on Tuesday. They came out this morning. I think it's one of those CYA situations, right? You got to cover your ass because they don't want to be, bad earnings, good earnings, and then be having to spend money battling some kind of lawsuit or investigation from the SEC. So it's in their best interest to say, hey, we're just going to release the earnings, get it out there, no conference call. This way, it takes removes the possibility of them being held under some kind of spotlight that someone has insider information or whatever. But just crazy stuff. I've talked about it the last couple of days with the Roaring Kitty situation. I mean, it's like a proxy on sticking it to the man, right? That's GameStop. It has nothing to do with fundamentals or growth or debt or any of that stuff. This is let's stick it to the SEC. Let's stick it to the Massachusetts Attorney General. Let's stick it to the FTC. Whatever it is, whatever agency it is, let's stick it to the government. And all the way up in the 60s. I don't know if some of the pullback here is on its earnings, but we have probably the most. It's going to be one of the highest viewed YouTube live streams of in recent memory when Roaring Kitty gets on later today. But certainly be interesting. I wish it would push up iRobot, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But that's it, folks. Let's have a great day. It's about 8:58. I'll be back on later. Rock and roll.